but we're back. So, 2008, we had a pretty good size recession. They call it recession, I think, not to scare us. And of course, we're kind of still in it, but it had a lesson for us. And we'll have to see who got it and who didn't get it, and did we get it as a collective and all that sort of thing. But one of the lessons was to simplify our lives, to stop spending so much of our resources, our energy, which is our wealth, on things that we really don't need, sort of excess, luxuries type thing. It reminded me of Yogananda used to say all the time, differentiate between your needs and your wants. It's a big difference when you think about it, our needs and our wants. And our needs, is what the body needs to stay alive. It's the love that we need. And it really does help us if we can get focused back on that. The yogis also call it simple living and high thinking. And of course, simple living does leave us a lot of time to have lofty thoughts, to meditate, to read good books, to get outside, whatever it is, to do our art or creativity, whatever. And if we manage our resources, our physical energy well, we can have a more enriched and fun life. And there was a very interesting story that I read in the book Karma and Reincarnation by Barbara Martin and Dimitri Moretis, who will be here this afternoon. And it really shows a lot, because we can be a balanced individual, knows when it's time to sit still and commune and contemplate and tune in, and when to serve. And that's that balance of giving and receiving and giving and receiving. And it also needs to go this way, right? We need to give and receive. And so in the story, it took place quite a while ago, and the yogi's name was Asang. And he was in love with his deity, or his guru was Lord Maitreya, who was not embodied. So he was going to go to a cave, and he was a Buddhist, Asang was Buddhist, and he wanted to go to the cave and stay there until Lord Maitreya came to him in form. So he was going to will to meet his guru in form, and he wanted then to learn Buddhism directly from Lord Maitreya. So he prayed, he meditated and stayed there for many years, and he got a little frustrated, and Lord Maitreya didn't come, so he left his cave and he went out, and he saw a bird trying to wear down a rock with its wing. And he looked at it and he said, well, that's the universe telling me to keep going, not to give up. So he went back in his cave and stayed there quite a bit longer, meditating. Still no Lord Maitreya. He came out again, did the same thing, saw something that really told him he needs to keep going, went back in the cave, and on and on. Well, about 12 years later, he comes out and he's totally discouraged, and he says he's not coming. So he starts to go down the mountain, and he sees on the side of the road a dog who had been injured, and the dog is whimpering in pain. And he goes up to the dog in compassion and love, and he sees that there was a cut in the dog's side, and in that cut had gotten, this is graphic, maggots. Yeah. Now, being a Buddhist, he couldn't kill the maggots, but he also saw that the dog was in pain, and he also saw that if he didn't help this dog, then the dog would eventually die. So he thought about it, and he said, no, I just can't let this happen. So he had a knife. This is really graphic, I'm sorry, you guys. And he took a part of his own skin, and he put it next to where the dog's was opening so the maggots would go to his own skin. As he did that, and that was happening, the dog turned into Lord Maitreya. And so, at first, of course, he was so in awe that finally his wish was granted. His deep prayer had finally come to fruition. But then once he was with Lord Maitreya for a little bit, the human side came in. Where the heck have you been these past 12 years? And Lord Maitreya said, you know, you did well, you burned a lot of karma, you got focused in your meditation, but I could not come to you until you learned this recent lesson, compassion. It wasn't until he really learned and felt compassion was he worthy of Lord Maitreya teaching him in person. And of course he did. And this is a true story, and some books came out of the relationship between Asang and Lord Maitreya. So as Tom, when we were finishing our meditation, Tom said, this is about all of us. And this year, these lessons that we're going to learn, that we are learning, it's individual, yes. But when we think of success and joy, we need to include everyone in the world, in this earth. You know, the boundary between the United States and Mexico is not, there's no real boundary. You know, if you go, do you ever go, you know, go to cross the border, you look and say, wow, this looks like California. Same thing if you go from California to certain parts of Colorado. I remember the first time I went, well, this could be California. You know, humans put boundaries. And once we put them on the earth and we claim them to belong to certain people, then we start getting ownership. The earth is ours. What happens what happened in Japan affected us a couple years ago, huh? And so if we could develop compassion, that aspect of the heart that feels for everyone, who wants peace for everyone, who wants justice for everyone, it will not only set a vibration on the planet that will bring that to happen, then other people will bring their defenses down, because we're all connected in the divine mind. So if we have a thought that I want everyone to have enough water and food to feed their children and to make their bodies healthy. I want everyone to have clean air. And I want everyone not to have to worry about how they're going to pay the rent the next day. I want them to go to bed with a, you know, let them go on a pillow and on a bed, in a protected room maybe, and fall asleep in peace. We want that for everyone, don't we? So as we expand our hearts and become sacredly unselfish, we set that vibration to really help, because what we will be walking through in these next few years, these are the seed planting years for the new age. We only got past the old energy. Now we've got, you can't buy a farm and expect the crops to be in the field just because you bought a farm. You buy the farm, you plant the seeds, first you till the soil, which is what's been happening, and then the seeds of consciousness get planted, and that's what comes up. That's where we are now. We're planting seeds. So one could to be of compassion, to focus on that, because success and joy for everyone. And it feels good, doesn't it? And then, and there's another story. You know I like stories. There's another story, Goethe, the German poet. He wrote of a man named Faust. And Faust, I think we can all identify, at least I can, I've got a Gemini moon. You know, Geminis, we're interested in everything. You know, information, give me information, we're like computers. You know, I just have the moon. But so Faust loved learning. He loved he was just interested in everything. And the devil, I don't know how, I remember how they came into, but he made an agreement with the devil. And he said, if I ever lose interest, if I ever get bored, or no, well, not bored, satiated, if I'm ever satisfied, you can have my soul. Because he knew his nature. He knew that everything interested, he was in love with everything. So Faust went about his life, right? And finally he got to this phase in his life where he started serving others and doing things for others. And without realizing it, he started feeling that he himself was being fed, and he thought, wow, I could live this way. I like the way this feels, the relationship and serving others. And of course, who shows up, right? He says, oh, you're mine now. You're mine now. So So down he goes. That was the agreement. And he's in the hot place. And all the, you know, in the story, all the angels of the lower worlds are dancing around singing because they've captured him. But you know, within a very, very brief period of time, down came the angels of light to get Faust. Because you can't stay here. This place is not yours. You don't belong to this place. You belong to the light. You cannot, no matter all the selfish things and all the worldly things and all the material things that you've done before, you cannot stay in this place because you have learned to serve others as yourself, as your greater self, and you must come to heaven. So I want to read you, this is what the angels said to Faust. Oops. Serena just texted me. They said, what is not part of you, you need not share it, but inwardly troubles you, you need not bear it. Only the loving love guides to its source. This is a poem that says, you know, love only can go to love. Love goes to love. So as yogis, you know, we learn to respect and love ourselves and take care of ourselves. But then as we go to work, serve the world with your gift as your greater self. Do what you do to your greater self, the oneness, where we're all connected.
Yeah, we're connected in love's embrace too, you know. Eternal, now loving presence is all there is. Right now, just read any near-death experience and that's what you will read. Anyone who's come back, spent more time in the body after going across the other side, just peeking through the little peephole into the astral world, the causal world, will come back and say, it's just amazing. It's just this loving presence, and I didn't want to leave the presence, and the presence gave me a choice. I didn't want to leave it, but then when I thought, you know, my wife, my children, things on planet Earth, you know, then we make the call whether to go back and finish up the karma, because that's a pretty wise decision too. Finish up the karma by not making any more and by being compassionate and loving and divine, or we simply say, no, no, I'm coming into the light. God always gives you a choice. Always gives you a choice. You just don't die. There'll be an angel there or a presence that will say, are you ready, my dear? And of course, if it was, if you were blowing up or something, you'll probably go, well, I don't think I'm going to go back. I don't have any pieces left, you know. Well, she started with the slicing.
Actually, that's not true. You know, there's a guy named Danny in Brinkley.
Really?
Did you ever read about him?
Yes.
He got
lightning bolt?
Yeah. His body was completely toast.
And he came back.
And he had to go back.
All right. Well, he chose to. Well, that man had tremendous.
3 times it happened, yeah.
Tremendous faith that he.
Woohoo!
No, but just
twice, I think, or just
yeah.
Not twice.
Yeah.
I know.
But anyway, you know, to really put your consciousness, so hard to even pull our consciousness away from today, and it's Sunday. It's like, I don't think any of you have a lot of duties or work. Hopefully you're not going to go into the office or whatever, but it's Sunday, it's your day. And the pulls on your consciousness it's insane, you know. It's like the guy Faust made a deal with. That delusion wants to keep you from knowing yourself. Didn't Mick Jagger write a song that said, allow me to introduce myself, I'm a man of wealth and fame. Right? And then, can you guess my name? And that darkness is only around enough so you and I, and it's only on these lower planes, whether the lower astral worlds or this physical plane that we're in, so that you and I can develop this thing called choice, and to develop our willpower, and to make the choices, that I can live in heaven or I can live in hell. Just like this one disciple of a master teacher went to him and said, "Sir, I want to know the difference of heaven and hell." And right away, the master teacher was just launched into this guy, just launched into him. Made him feel like this big and then like nothing. And the guy started to get like, "Wait a minute, I just asked you a question." He started to get a little fiery. And the master kept going and going, and finally anger took over this disciple, and he was ready to hit his guru. Can you imagine that? And right before he did, his teacher said, "That is hell. That is hell." And then the disciple realized, and then this love came through his master's eyes and his master's heart. And then the master and the disciple were beamed on. And the master said, "And this is heaven." See? It's not a place in time and space, you guys. It's not. It's this feeling that you're feeling now. And I don't know about you, and those of you who come regularly to the Soul, or those of you here first time, and we so welcome you, you know, or you've been here a few times. But notice, tune your heartstrings before you come over here. And walk in this door. And see what and really experience what you feel. I mean, if Derek O'Neill could say last night that he was just meditating in Yogananda's gardens and he came into here, and this is his first time in the room, and he's looking around and said, "Wow, this is beautiful." And he said, "Oh yeah, I was just at Yogananda's gardens," and he said, the presence there is the same as here. You've done a wonderful job in transferring it over. No, that was not a conscious thing. What maybe transferred it over was the sincerity of striving to live the life, the sincerity of striving to have a pure heart, the sincerity of trying to just have my consciousness focus for a little while on higher things other than the day-to-day or what the world is focused on. We have so many moments, each of us, where you see that beautiful sunset, you know, or your grandchildren do something, and that's probably a whole string of moments when you're with them, where you aren't in the delusion, so to speak. You aren't about yourself. You're in this moment, and that moment is so pristinely beautiful and pure. And because you're in the moment, there is no egoity, because the moment is pure, and your desires have gone to rest temporarily. So you're not being propelled for more reincarnation, births and deaths through desires for things of this world. Everything's stopped. And we don't realize that, oh my gosh, if I could just take a moment and take a picture of my consciousness in such moments, because it's pure consciousness in those moments of purity, then you could say, wow, I am free. I am free in those moments. I am free. I am doing what it says in all the spiritual scripture in the books, in the Gita, in the Bible that Barbara and Dimitri are going to talk about today, the metaphysical Bible in a yoga place, right? Huh? So don't think that it's going to be like the ordinary Bible. Not in this place, it won't be. And you can just celebrate the end, your true nature, your oneness already, your divinity already. So many times today, I'm telling you, it will happen if we can just separate ourselves from ourselves a little bit more and watch and witness and have faith or full attention in the heart. Faith today. And not to stop there, you guys, because this is just ideas. These are just pure ideas that are beautiful, and you feel them. But each one of us is going to need to make something, as we learned from Derek O'Neill, he's talking about anchoring, right? And he did a little example, he did a little exercise, and he said, rub your ear like this. And we all rubbed our ear like this, and we remember the exercise, because we did an exercise to help us get back into our center, back into our hearts. And then the rubbing of the ear is just simply, oh wow, next time you feel like the mind has been elsewhere, and your heart has been given away elsewhere, and thus your energies have been given away, and your power have been given away, and you go, oh yeah, I remember that thing that I did to help me bring my consciousness back in my heart. So you rub your ear, you see. It's just, anything can be an anchor. Anything. But God can't give you that anchor, even though God is the anchor of your life. Isn't that interesting? Because this thing about free choice. And your soul decided to come down to planet Earth. You know, there's a lot of spaces to live in these dimensions. And even 3D spaces that isn't as heavy as planet Earth. Yogananda said, planet Earth is one of the worst places in creation. Have a good day. No, he didn't say that. But you know what that means, is that your soul decided, hey, I'll take it on. I'll bring it on to me. Because I'm in the light right now, and I'm connected with all that is right now, and I see it so clearly. What my mission is, what I need to do personally, going down to such a planet of distraction. And total, you know, so many so-called flavors of things that I could get interested in and create karma around. You chose it because in this short season of this life, each one of you is so ready to find that refuge and to make that anchor something that is unique to you, whether it's connecting to your breath, and the breath becomes a breath of joy or a breath of love or a breath of that unconditional golden light love that I was talking about. And you do that a few times, just three times. You just say, look, if I believe that everything is love, and right now, every being and every detail, every plant, every animal, everything that's broken, everything that's not broken, is covered by this Divine Mother's golden arms of infinite unconditional love, I would never have to worry about. And if for 3 breaths you can hold that idea or that pure consciousness that such a thing, such a reality does exist, 3 breaths without doubting and without letting your mind wander, 3 breaths, my friends, you are knocking at the door of freedom. You have no idea how long it's taken us to even consider such a crazy idea. Take my mind off of this world for 3 seconds to put it on what? You wouldn't even go there, and you have it. But now you have a possibility to, for 3 breaths, to start there, to place your anchor, and I mean deep, in this ocean of samsara, as the Buddha used to call this, or called this realm of duality. You know, there's another story when Trisha was saying that, about that Buddhist monk, you know, those heroes in the Bhagavad Gita, the Pandava brothers. They too, when the war of Kurukshetra was over, by the way, the soul won this battle with our ego that's falsely identified with this outer world. When it was done, they all walked into the higher realms. They walked. All but Yudhishthira, the eldest brother. He didn't walk because he got to the gates, pearly, of course, right? Whatever that thing is, like the boundary between Mexico and here, right? Like you're walking along and there's no sign, you're going to go, oh, here's the boundary. But they're walking along, all of the brothers. And then he realized, oh my gosh, I left my dog behind. And so the great beings who were there saying, this is the time that's been, you know, divinely orchestrated for you guys to go through now into your freedom. You've earned it. He said, sorry, I got to go get my dog. Well, I know you now know dogs are your best friends, and God spelled backward. He left the brother, said, I don't care. I'm not going to go. I'm not leaving my dog behind. And he went back, got the dog, came to that point, no one was around. And he realized, okay, well, I still do the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to leave my dog behind. And then the dog became the divine one for him too. And said, this was just this last little initiation I just wanted to see. Come on, let's go. But you know, you might say, well, I don't know if I do so good. If something happened today, and I don't know how prepared I am on the spot, you know. And you get into your head around, and you start thinking, could I do something that is, you know, above my skill set and above my fears of things, and just act in a noble way, compassionate way? You better believe you can. It's only in your mind when you stop and think about it that you start to get, I don't know if I can do it. Mm-hmm. And that is brakes on the wheels of your soul's progress, that thinking about it. But you have to rest assured that if you can, for 3 breaths, go inside and just feel some of the content that was in this soul talk this morning and say, wow, yeah, I would do it. Just play the game. Play the consciousness game first, you guys. Because what first happened in you when the soul came into the womb of your mother, the sperm and the ovum met, and there was a great light, and in comes the soul, and your causal brain formed, the little tiniest thing, this brain of bliss wisdom, but it's now inside a womb. But it's as pure as a pure. It's as blissful as bliss could be, but it's now in form. Divine indweller in form. But it was your causal brain, because you have three bodies, you know, physical, astral of energy and light, and the causal of pure consciousness. But you come from consciousness. That's why it's called causal, because it causes your astral body and your physical body. Your physical body couldn't exist without the astral of energy and light. So you see, the physical is the least thing real about you. And the idea, or just holding this beautiful concept that you're the most compassionate being on the planet, and just playing the consciousness game. Don't worry about the weeds. Don't worry about the follow-up. How am I going to react here, and how I'm going to, because your past is usually blowing up in situations like that, because it's worried that your soul is going to win this battle. It's going to show you all the examples where you seemingly didn't show up at a moment where there was compassion needed in that situation. And you're going to get cold feet, but don't let that bother you anymore. No, you create today some amazing scenarios in your pure consciousness. Nobody can touch you there. You know, when in prison, Viktor Frankl went through every horrible thing you could ever imagine when he was in the concentration camp, everything. But you know what? He maintained his joy, he did. Because he said, they could take away, they can torture me, they can kill me, but they can't take away who I really, really am. Right? And there's many stories. The monk who was my mentor, Brother Premamoy, I mentioned that to him, to the story to you. He was in a concentration camp. And you know what he did? The little bit of food that he got, he made sure everyone ate it first. Anything that came to him, he made sure his brothers that were in this concentration camp got a piece of it first. And he said he survived amazingly well. Can you imagine the life force that comes into you when you're operating from such a soulic place, right? Such a noble place. It's just outrageous.
And he wasn't a Jew, right? He was a resistance fighter?
Yeah. He was the resistance. He was from Czechoslovakia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he has amazing stories to tell. And I told you the story that before coming in the ashram, already he had memorized the Bhagavad Gita at the age of 6. Are you kidding? Read that poem. It's only 800 verses. But it's so thick that your little mind goes, He memorized it. So a great soul coming in. But he had a few little idiosyncrasies. The president of self-realization said, you come in as a monk. This was back in the day when he was ready to enter. He said, no, Ma, I'm not ready to go. And you know why he wasn't ready? Because as growing up as a duke in a palace in Czechoslovakia, he never had to clean a toilet. He never had to do any chores. And he had 2 resistances. 1, he didn't want to clean a toilet. 2, he couldn't stand the sight of blood or bloody bandages. So he told Dayama, he said, there's 2 things I'm going to do. You know what? He went out and got a job as a janitor, and he cleaned toilets for the love of God. And he went to a hospital, and he just slept around moving bloody bandages. And he finished that, and he said, Mom, I'm ready to come in the ashram. But you know, that kind of consciousness and that kind of follow-up where he put his consciousness into action like that because it was the right thing to do, because he has this pact, this infinite pact with the infinite, and he's very clear on that because he's trained himself to be very clear on that over many, many lifetimes. You do that and starting in these little ways, you know. These little ways are available to you and me today. But I was mentioning earlier a little about this vibration when you walk in this room. And I'll tell you what it is, because it's been outrageous. For me, it's been outrageous. I have been having a hard time keeping myself together because of the joy that I feel in this room and in this center. And you know what I think it is? Because some of you are so close. Some of you, I know there's something going on in some of you, and nobody really knows. that's going on, and you are so close to liberation. That's what I get a sense. I get a sense that these high beings are singing their divine songs to us, and they're radiating such because they're celebrating a soul getting ready to go back home. You don't have any idea what a celebration is until a soul returns back into the infinite bliss with its creator, which is the only reason the creator made the soul in the first place. So it never go no more out, and it never is separated from this bliss consciousness. So I want all of you, as you sit here now, that such a one is in this room, or two, or three, or four. And I want you to possibly acknowledge that it's you. If you give your consciousness a chance to be the consciousness which separates you from the animals, which separates you from people who are totally in the dark, because they still need to learn some big time lessons, right? That's the only reason there's dark, so that people can learn the lessons and use their willpower to choose the light. Just like if you were to create a perfect lover, one perfect lover, I don't know about you, but I would make sure that that perfect lover went through a lot of tests and temptations and a lot of other lovers that they could choose from. And I would be so thrilled, maybe 1,000,000 years later, that that lover finally was able to say, nope, 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 nope. I want only him. I want only him. I want only him. Wouldn't that be an amazing love story? Because 1,000,000 years is nothing in the mind of God. Nothing. It's nothing. So finally I'll close, because Trish mentioned a couple stories. This was the story that Yogananda tells of God telling Narada to go down and find the greatest devotee. So he went down, he looked around everywhere. He only came back to tell the Lord, I only saw two. One was a guy been 80 years in the forest. And man, that guy was like so rigid in his disciplines, but he never missed in 80 years. And the Lord goes, yeah, now who's the next one? Didn't even say, well, what about anything? Just, who's next? And he said, well, Lord, I don't even want to say this, but there was a guy, and he was so drunk. He was so drunk. And he was trying to mend a fence, but he couldn't do it because he was so drunk. But I came to him and I said, I'm a messenger of God, and I'm just looking around for the greatest devotee of God. And the message that he is to deliver to these two guys was this. He said to that guy in the forest, he said, when God finishes passing 1,000,000 elephants through an eye of a needle, he'll come and visit you. And the guy just freaked out. He can't pass 1,000,000 elephants through an eye of a needle. I've wasted my time. And his danda, his stick, and all his beads, and he said, I'm out of here. And he went back to his worldly ways. When he came to the drunk man, because the first time he said to the drunk man, when God passes that 1,000,000 elephants to the eye of the needle, and he came back and he told that guy again, when he passes 1,000,000 elephants to the eye of the needle, and the drunk just went, done! It's done! It's done! And his alcohol inebriation turned into ecstatic inebriation. Consciousness, you guys. I don't care if your life has looked bad, if it feels like so challenging, blah, 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 blah. Today, see if you can chisel out. Because this is how you chisel out your divinity. This is how you chisel out, step by step, the path back home to oneness with Spirit. Success and joy, my thought. And just chisel out for 3 breaths, 6 breaths, and hold that consciousness that you created there with no distraction, as pure and as attuned to truth as possible. And then you invest those 3 breaths and that consciousness and put it safe in your heart. And keep doing that and doing that. Because you are the one. Namaste.